Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they have to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. And I'm really glad that you could join me today. And if you're listening to this on Podomatic, you can also listen to this show on iTunes. And also there are some episodes available on iHeartRadio, Google Play and YouTube. Spotify also has been added recently. So there's a few places that you can listen in, and I really hope that you'll do that. And if you're listening on iTunes, that would be great if you could also share a review. That helps the show to be found by more listeners. So if you could take a moment to do that, just kind of share your thoughts and about the show, really appreciate it. And if you go to womenentrepreneursecrets.com, it's the blog for the show. You can also, if you have ideas that you want to submit, as far as topics you'd like to hear in the future, that's a place that you could do that. And also, if you are someone who wants to be a guest, you can look there under the podcast menu, and you can download the guidelines for the show and see if you'd like to be a guest, and gives you all the details about how to reach out to us and what you should provide so that you could be considered for being a guest. So I hope you do that as well. And also, my website is bbaileycoach.com, and you can learn more about me and my books and different coaching that I have. And so I hope you'll stop by there too and see what I'm up to. So we're going to get started with my guest today. Lauren Kay Wyatt is the founder of Love Renegades, a coaching company that shows soul-driven women how to create and grow loving, connected, and romantic relationships on their terms. And since 2012, Lauren has worked directly with hundreds of women to heal their hearts and break the laws of love. A Love Renegades term for letting go of other people's advice and using your spiritual power to create and grow a romantic relationship, something most women struggle to do, irrespective of the number of years in business, client success, or their revenue. Through her work as a coach and love psychic, Lauren has witnessed clients take empowering steps and create an abundance of love for themselves, which translates into deeper, long-lasting connection with intimate partners and an acceleration in their businesses. So welcome to the show, Lauren.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm so glad that you could be here, and I really am excited about your topic, which is breaking the laws of love for success in your business, the Love Renegades way. I think that was going to be very interesting discussion. Before we get started on that, if you don't mind, could you share with the listeners how you got started in business?
Well, I tried a few things before I started my own business. Mm-hmm. And as much as I tried, Deborah, nothing really worked out. I felt like there was something missing. I felt like there was so much more that I could be doing. Mm-hmm. And I did not know what that was exactly. Mm-hmm. And one day, and this was after even going so far as to apply for the Peace Corps, just thinking, I don't know what I want to do, but I know that I want to be of service. And I'd had a health issue that made it to where I couldn't go to the Peace Corps. So I'm working these different jobs in freelance writing and an accreditation organization. and I'm not feeling like I'm living my potential.
Mm.
And I kind of like asked myself for guidance. What can I do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't exactly my path, but it came in that it was time for me to really get a handle on these natural abilities that I had had and noticed since I was a child. Just this intuition, this empathy, and this knowingness. And it came into my frame of reference that I could help people with my intuitive abilities, and that could happen through coaching and through putting people in touch with their soul gifts. And then I had to look at my own life and see that the greatest transformation that I had was within my romantic life, especially the relationship that I have with Daniel, who's my husband now. Mm-hmm. And over the years, since 2012, this dream, this insight, this crazy idea that I've had has evolved into Love Renegades, this coaching program where I really help people just get in touch with what it is that they want and to unapologetically live their truth and break the laws of love. Mm-hmm. And it is amazing what I've seen unfold for my clients in their romantic relationships and their relationship with themselves and in their businesses.
Wow. That's so interesting, because I think a lot of times people wouldn't think about connecting them, but of course everything is connected, right?
Yeah, like that's what I think. And sometimes I'm surprised that people don't see the connections. And then I think, well, okay, I didn't exactly see it before either. So, hey, why don't we just talk about it? You know?
Right. True. Very true. So how do you tie all that together? You know, what's the truth about your romantic life and relationships and how they impact business?
Okay, so I could go totally into theory and philosophy here, but instead I'll go into a couple examples and stories. Mm-hmm. So years before any of this ever happened in my career life, I had a college degree and I was waiting tables in Austin, Texas. And I'm just thinking, I know that I could be doing more with my life. Mm-hmm. And I had this partner who was just such a dear person to me. And I decide one day to come out to him about the different way that I saw the world. So I disclosed to him, you know, I see colors around people. Sometimes I feel different emotions that people have in my body, and I know things without knowing where they come from. And this was a very vulnerable thing for me to share with someone because it wasn't something that I was entirely comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And his response to me was, well, you know, if such a thing like that exists, which it doesn't, but if such a thing like that exists, I know, you would definitely be that, you know? And he and I are friends and we laugh about it. And he says, oh gosh, what an asshole-ish thing for me to have said. But, you know, we were like 23 years old then, so whatever. So anyway, in case anybody's listening at this time of recording, I'll be 37 in a couple months. So anyway, this was a while back. So fast forward to years later, that relationship ends. I've gone through my heartbreak. My whole life is changing. And I have a new boyfriend, the man who's now my husband. Mm-hmm. And I share with him, I think that I'm crazy. This is like the experience that I have. And he looked at me and he said, you are not crazy. Now, mind you, his mother, she suffers from mental illness and she has schizophrenia. So he knew what he was talking about. You know, he's like, no, you're not crazy. You just have a gift and it's your responsibility to learn how to use that gift so that you can not only understand it, but maybe later you can be of service to someone else.
That's great.
Yeah. So, and how it affects business, I believe that even though we don't technically need our partner's support or our family support and having the permission to do the things that are in our heart, it certainly helps. It helps us to nurture these desires and to bring them to the forefront. Because when we have people in our lives, especially if it's our intimate partner, if they have like which they're completely allowed to have their own opinions about what we do. We all have that right. Like they're allowed to have their opinions, but sometimes if they're on a different wavelength than us, it can really, well, either way, it can really impact the way that we show up in our businesses and with the level of creativity and maybe the risk and the connection and the innovation that we bring into it. Because,
I think a lot of times how people feel about themselves, obviously how you feel about yourself, is how you're going to interact in the world and interact with other people. Yes. And also what you believe about your business or what you're offering in the world.
Yes.
So, it is very much tied together, because I guess if you have certain feelings about yourself, in a relationship or romantically, or you feel like I can't ask for what I want, or I don't deserve this or that, that's got to show up in how you may deal, with clients, so customers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like it can really, it's a self-esteem issue. And when we're so daring to be in a position of leadership or to be entrepreneurs or, people who make these creative products, if we have someone who's telling us, I don't believe in what you're doing, or I think that what you're doing doesn't exist, or, take the safe way, like everyone else has done. It takes a really strong person to be able to say, and I do encourage my clients on this. I'm like, sometimes like the people in your life or your partner, they're not going to be on board right away with your desires and your relationships and like the new viewpoints that you're taking on, or, in this topic, Deborah, what you're doing in your business. They may not understand what you're doing, and they're doing their best. And sometimes it just comes from fear or opposition. So in that moment, it's really up to us to believe in ourselves and to find that support in other ways. But it needs to come from within, even though it's so freaking hard to do sometimes. Right?
Yes, it is. It definitely is. So, for people to really believe in themselves and what they have to offer and what they can do, or believe in their idea, that they can create this business and can get out there. Yeah, all of that is definitely coming from within.
Yes.
Yeah. It definitely has to. So what are the laws of love?
Well, I am so glad that you asked. So first of all, at Love Renegades, that Love Renegade is that force within you that really urges you to be honest with yourself and to check in with your heart. Like, what is my heart asking me to do? what idea do I have, or what isn't quite okay in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And when we have the power of our inner love renegade with us, we're able to do what's hard, and that's break the laws of love. So what the laws of love are, they are these social norms, these expectations, these illusions
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes we don't even realize that they're happening, but they're in the background, and they can dictate the choices that we make. And these choices keep us locked into patterns and behaviors and choices
Mm-hmm.
that don't serve our highest potential, and that negate the power of our heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's like, what in the world is this? So it sounds so intellectual, which is hilarious because we're like talking about, the heart,
Right,
and creativity in relationships. So like we can just like laugh about that right now. But here's an example of one of the laws of love. It's the law of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are abiding by the law of sacrifice, this is the person, and I've completely been here before myself, who puts everybody else's needs ahead of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sometimes when we're taking care of an elderly person, or we have a small child, that person is like dependent on us for their well-being.
Mm-hmm.
But in other instances, if it's like, oh, whatever my partner wants to do, we can do, even though I don't really like it, or I'm too afraid to set a boundary or to let someone know what's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
What happens from that is that, like, after a time, that person gets burnt out, and that person feels resentful. And that does not support them in their relationships. And it doesn't support their creative efforts or their business either. So when I'm working with a client and I see that she's just really doing the law of sacrifice, we talk about it. We talk about, where does this come from? And are there other ways that you can show people that you appreciate them without doing it at your own expense and without sacrificing?
Mm-hmm.
And, I work with intelligent people, and after we talk it out, ideas come to the surface. And it's when we take action on that. So, maybe it's saying no. It's like, you know what? I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not available to do that. Mm-hmm. Or, it's making time for yourself so that you can serve all of your clients, or so that you can be really present in your relationship. Mm-hmm. And when we do that, when we can set those boundaries and make those new choices and uphold those boundaries, that's when we break the law of sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And there are 5 other laws of love that I've discovered in my work with clients. And it's so interesting to see them, because if we don't know what isn't serving us, it's really hard to make changes. Right? So I love just being with a client and bringing it to their attention so that they can take new action on their behalf that really supports them and their relationships and all of their success and endeavors.
Mm-hmm. That's great, actually. And we're talking about sacrifice. I think a lot of times people will do that. They figure, well, I'll just give this up now, or put this person or thing first, or I won't create any boundaries because I shouldn't, or maybe they feel they don't deserve to have them, or they think I'll just do all this now and it'll pay off later kind of idea.
Yes. Yes, it happens.
You know?
It happens all the time. And I've done it before, you know?
I know I've done it too.
I know. Like we all have, and it's like, oh my, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And when someone's there, and that someone, you know, being me or someone who can see these things, it really gives that person permission to break the law of sacrifice and to start doing things more on their heart's terms. And that's what happens when we break every single one of these laws of love. It always creates new possibilities, and also, Deborah, it can also create some pushback from our relationships. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
When you don't have boundaries and you go to set boundaries, the people, like your loved ones who are used to how things are, your clients who are used to how things are, like they can understandably be taken aback. And it's good to just, you know, hold that and to trust.
Yes.
Like when I do this, it really does. It's a love-based choice, and it serves everyone involved. And we all deserve love.
Yes. And how you put that is, it's so good, because, you know, a lot of times people will, not have boundaries, and then they get resentful, because they expect the person just should know.
Yeah. Oh, do I know? I so know.
You know, no boundaries at all, or maybe that translates into how they deal with clients. Maybe they go all out of their way to prepare or present something, and maybe that's not even a person who hires them, or maybe the client is difficult. You know, people do all that, or the client isn't the, you know, it's difficult, and they still are trying to appease them, and it never works. And yeah, we've all been there.
We have, and I do feel like it's a rite of passage. It's just like, okay, you know, now because I've had these experiences, it's so similar to dating, and also similar to how our long-term relationships can evolve over time. But in putting it to the client example that we're talking about, it's when we have those moments, like where we have a client that's like really demanding, and we're like, whatever we do, it's just like, it's not enough. It's so that rite of passage, because it's like, wait a second here. This is not a pleasant scenario. Not that everything has to be pleasant, but when things like that occur in my life, or when I see it occurring in a client's life, it's always great to look at it and think, well, what is it within me that made me this prime target for this to happen? And in the case of like those, like the needier or like demanding or not so fun clients, it's like, you know what? Maybe I had a need for approval, or I had like, you know, or I wanted them to like me, similar to a need of approval. I wanted them to like me, so I went into people-pleasing behavior. I wanted to, you know, prove to them how dedicated I was to their project, or whatever it was. And of course, whenever we come from a place of need like that, we get to create more and more need, and it's never enough. And it's us to stop insanity and to break that law of love. Yes.
That's so true. It doesn't end. It just gets worse. It doesn't end. The people, everybody's, you know, your needs don't get met, and it just doesn't end. And then you're just frustrated and upset, and then just trying for that person to realize, and they're not going to.
No, they don't. And that's another thing. It's like, we cannot assume that someone else, can read our mind, or that they're like on the same wavelength as us. And a huge part of breaking the laws of love, like, there are other ones, the law of control, the law of perfection, the law of absorption, the law of drama, the law of satisfaction. It's so important to be honest, and that honesty starts from within us. And to just ask, like, what in here is not working for me, and what is my power? What is my healing opportunity, my empowerment opportunity in this situation?
That's great. That's a great way to look at it. So then you can see how you can fix that and work with yourself.
Yes.
To make a difference in this particular situation. So, could you please share, Lauren, where people can find out more about you and your program?
Yes. My website is loverenegades.com, and you can connect with me there. And I'm also on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and those places. Also, I have a Which Law of Love Do You Need to Break quiz that you can take at breakthelawsoflove.com.
Perfect. So people can go and check that out.
Yeah. Get a handle on it now. It's like, what is getting in my way that I can't see? And you'll take this quiz that I created, and whatever answer you get is where you can start.
Perfect. I like that. That's great. So I'm also going to put that in the show notes, everybody, so you'll be able to get that link and give it a try for yourself. And so, Lauren, how do relationships and dating affect business, besides trying to fit all that in?
Right? Okay. So, yeah, great question. So, as we know, relationships can, since, we're dealing with, at least two people, there can be conflict. We're not going to agree all the time. And there can be drama as well. And if we're not addressing those things, if we let that conflict just, go on and on because we avoid it or because we enable it, it really does drain us energetically. And it can make its way into our business, where instead of, spending time on some great product that we can make for our customers, or in being completely present with a client during a session or a meeting, we have all of these different background conversations happening, and that can really, really pull us away from our goals and from being present. And furthermore, it's the quality of people that we let into our life. So, not that everybody needs to be exactly like us. That would be super boring. But when dating, or when going through an up level, it's so important that you're not only aware of the laws of love that you need to break, but that you also have a knowing of what your principles are. And I can sometimes jokingly refer to this as your own personal policy and procedure manual when you're dating, so that you know what's okay and what's not okay, and so that you're aware of what your principles are, what your mission statement is, if you will, in terms of dating. And this supports you so much in trusting yourself, so that when someone comes in and it's kind of a red flag, that you listen to that intuition, and that you follow your own principles, and that allows things to flow really beautifully and truthfully and authentically in your business as well.
That sounds really good.
I know, and it, it's not always perfect. Like, these things can be messy, but I always say that it's better to address things sooner rather than later.
Yes, that's true. And that way it's not something that you're later on, whatever's going on is just getting worse and worse, or your feelings about it are just more stressful or upset because things aren't really lining up the way you want. And because those are things that you've never really dealt with, or feelings that you have that you never looked at.
Yes.
Yeah.
So true. So if you can just kind of just do your own introspective work at the beginning, have an idea of what your principles are, and you can always grab from things that have happened in the past, and it's like, okay, this isn't going to be my story anymore. I'm going to take ownership of what's happened, and I am going to rewrite my story and break the laws of love.
That sounds perfect.
I know. So much fun. It's fun. It really is.
That sounds so perfect. How you can really pull all of these things together and just have a better self-awareness and a better experience all the way around.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
I really do. I love how you, what you've done here and what you put together and how you put something together that I wouldn't even have thought that you could put all that together. I'm like, hey, of course, that makes perfect sense. You just
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you don't hear people looking at it that way. And, now that I, seeing what you mean, it's just like, well, of course.
They're like, oh yeah, I see that. It's really funny. The ex-boyfriend that I talked about at the beginning of our call. We talked about something and I said, wow, you must think I'm crazy. And he said, I think you are nuts. And that is what I love and continue to love the most about you. And I've gotten that feedback a lot. So if there's anything that your listeners can take from this, it's just be unapologetically you. Let that inner Kay, that love renegade, just shine through. Be so just on point and unapologetic about your own principles. And I dare you to just break those laws of love.
Well, Lauren, I was going to ask for final thoughts, but I think you just shared them.
Perfect. I love it. We are psychically connected, Deborah.
That just tied everything together so nicely. It's like...
I know. Like, there we go.
What more can you say? It's just...
No, nothing. Fairy dust, glitter for everybody listening. And that's it. Blessings and love to all.
Really? That's it? Thank you. There's some things are just so perfectly said that you're like, I couldn't do anything more with that.
Awesome. I love it.
Because that's it. That's the whole gist of it right there. That makes so much perfect sense for everyone to really take that in and realize, yeah, it all works together. It really can work together and really be really positive for you. As you said, it has to start from within that person, and to make that wonderful experience with their business and also with their relationships. It is possible. So I think that's great. I'm really excited to hear about this program. I'm so glad that you could join me.
I am too. And I love how it all came together.
Yes, it did. Just
so fun.
Perfectly. So just perfectly. And I like that because then, the listeners, who often are juggling their own things can really see, how they can go and make this work and connect with you also, and really learn how to get their own things together. And as you were saying, I think that what you said about your former boyfriend, accepting you as you are, I think that's something that's so, so important also for people to do, and realize they have something to offer, but not really try to be like everyone else because they don't feel comfortable.
Yeah. I had a mentor once say that the most eccentric people are the most successful people. Like, the people we admire. And I heard this years ago, and it just stuck with me, and I use that to comfort me at night. It's like, okay, it's gonna be all right. You can be the loving weirdo, and it's gonna be okay.
It's okay now. It's all right. But it's, that's true. It's being yourself. And then certainly, in business, in relationships, it goes without saying it, you should be.
Yeah.
But, business, that's certainly a way for you to, stand out and connect with your ideal person, because you're not trying to be like everyone else.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that really is a great fit, for that, I think. So perfect. Well, Lauren, like I said, this has been a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad we could connect and have this and share this with everyone. It's really been a wonderful, wonderful chat. And thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed it.
You are so welcome. I have loved my time with you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Everyone, I know you enjoyed it. So make sure that you stop by Lauren's website, check out the quiz, share this with others that you know, social media and all that good stuff, and subscribe to the show and leave your comments, review. That would be wonderful, as I said. Please certainly do that. I know you enjoyed it just as much as we enjoyed having our conversation. Definitely follow up and take that quiz and see where you fit in with all that good stuff, okay? So once again, some Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneursecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dvcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.